medication, so many different aspects of all of that. So I had no clue about any of this until actually having experienced it myself.
Welcome to Stronger with Every Session. This is your space for candid conversations, deep dives into crucial topics, and practical education you can use to transform your life. Together, we are stronger with every session. Postpartum isn't just about sleepless nights. It's a real emotional and psychological climb. Today, on Stronger with Every Session, we're joined by Karla Weidman, a licensed creative arts therapist, certified alcohol and substance abuse counselor, and certified perinatal mental health professional. With more than 15 years of experience, Karla has supported individuals through trauma, addiction, and the unique challenges of the perinatal period. In this episode, we'll talk about the realities of postpartum mental health, why support matters, and how healing can take many forms. Whether you're a new parent, a partner, or simply somebody who wants to better understand this journey, this conversation offers both insight and encouragement. Let's dive in.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we're talking today about the perinatal and postpartum side of things. Is that something that other people in your office work with as well?
Not as much. I'm sort of our resident perinatal specialist at the moment. It probably got prompted by becoming a mom myself 4.5 years ago now. Feels like yesterday. But yeah, so I'm kind of the specialist in our building. We're all independent. We all kind of specialize in different things, which is nice because then we have the ability to collaborate, share, and refer to each other as needed.
Oh, that's perfect. So you said being a parent yourself helped spark that. Is that kind of when you started going down that path for therapy?
Yes. So I had my son 4.5 years ago. He's an IVF baby. So we struggled with infertility, medication, so many different aspects of all of that. So I had no clue about any of this until actually having to experience it myself. My mom is a victim or suffered from infant loss. So I had a brother that my mom found out 7 months along that he wasn't going to survive a full pregnancy. This is the late 80s. Things were very different then. Culture was very different then. She carried him full term, gave birth. He survived for about 20 minutes and passed away. And this was not something we talked about growing up. I don't remember it being a conversation in my family at all, other than your brother's not coming home. So that really prompted, it came full circle into my adulthood and realizing how much of a big deal that was and how much that shaped our family growing up, and not realizing that until my journey into parenthood and helping other clients and seeing everybody else's stories along with friends, colleagues. Just a whole new world got opened up.
Okay, so you actually, it's not just perinatal,
Yeah.
it's the infertility side of things, the loss side of things, and then the postpartum as well.
Isn't that huge? Like, you think perinatal is kind of a small window, and that's what they'll say, is perinatal is pregnancy through the first year, which is huge. I don't want to negate that, but there's so much more. So the domino effect, the offshoots with family, all of the stuff with infertility where you don't really count as much as in the perinatal umbrella. And then loss, if you're not, such a weird choice of words, right? You're a parent of a baby that you've lost, so you're not in a parenting stage, but you have a huge loss, so people might not consider themselves perinatal in that realm either. There's just a lot of different offshoots and domino effects, and it's huge. Absolutely.
What are some of the common challenges that you see with your clients?
I particularly, having been trained in EMDR and using art therapy, tend to get a lot of birth trauma or some infant loss situations, some of our really tragic situations for some of our folks. That's more the exception to the rule, say. Generally, it's a lot of postpartum depression and OCD-like or intrusive thoughts that happen after giving birth. That's a huge one that I don't know that we all talk about, or we're afraid to talk about because it's all the scary stuff.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You said an intrusive thought and like OCD type things. That's not one. Everybody's heard of postpartum depression. What would postpartum OCD look like?
I'm afraid to leave my child alone in a crib because what if something happens? I'll give an example of a family who had a child in the NICU with a breathing issue, and now more of the obsessive thoughts are always thinking that any moment that baby or infant or toddler, even through the months and years of that child growing up, having a overwhelming sense of fear that is going to result back in a hospitalization. So it's this almost hyperfixation, hyper-focus, a lot of fear that it's going to happen again. So then how a person typically tries to manage that is being very protective, alert, paying a lot of attention, but that also means not getting any sleep, which isn't always very good in the grand scheme of things. You're not getting any sleep anyway as a parent.
Okay, so that, like I said, that's something that not a lot of people talk about. My son is 3.5, and I think after he was born, I had symptoms of postpartum OCD that I didn't know how to recognize, and I thought I was just going crazy.
Yeah, not.
So that's an area that people come in to get support for. And I can definitely see another one of those challenges, like you mentioned, being afraid of having your baby sleep alone in the crib because something would happen. But they also talk so much about like safe sleep, so that almost feeds into it.
Yes. And what's the balance in there? Like, how do you cope with that anxiety of, I want my baby right next to me because I have a primal instinct and a mom intuition to make sure that we're taking care of our baby, yet also everybody's telling you to put him in a crib and give him some space, and like, what's the right answer? Which I don't have that right answer.
Well, I'm sure that's got to be different for every parent, every family, every situation has its own story, but I can absolutely see how somebody could benefit from coming in for things like that, to figure out what that does look like for them and where their mind is telling them things that are just enhancing fears instead of actually being a protective place.
Exactly. It's just a good space to have someone be able to tell you that what you're experiencing is, I don't like to use the word normal, but normal-ish, or a lot more common than people think it is. We try not to talk about it, and that whole ignore it, it'll go away thing, which sometimes works, but overall, when it's starting to affect your functioning as a person or in your dynamic or relationship, that's huge. Divorce is most common when your children are 3 to 5, so you're getting through some of these hard windows of infancy and growing out of that, but obviously that's a huge strain on relationships and parenting and trying to figure all of this stuff out. It's a lot.
Yeah, I know that for myself, becoming a parent, I thought I was ready, and then you get there and it's like, oh, you can never actually be ready for this. You can't read enough books to prepare yourself. Every situation is going to be different. You can't expect everything. So I am curious. I hear people talk about depression, but also like the baby blues. What kind of differences are there between those two?
Are really common. Baby blues could be common in that, but it's only supposed to last about 2 weeks. Anything beyond a little weepy, maybe just unsure. Your hormones are drastically changing from birth to potentially breastfeeding. Or if you're not, your hormones are changing as well. Like whether you choose not to breastfeed or do, your hormones are adjusting to that situation either way. A lack of sleep is a huge one. It also depends on what supports you have. Having a really good try is great. That's not what everybody has though. So that can impact it. But mostly just weepy, really adjusting to the lack of sleep, some irritability, anxiety. But beyond that, that would all just be kind of mild. There's so many different resources for sure.
That's still a huge adjustment, whether it's your first baby, your 5th baby, anytime you're bringing another life into the world.
Exactly. I was a perfect parent before I had kids.
Me too.
I knew everything.
Like I said, I don't think there's anything that you can do to ever really be ready to be a parent. And it is important to know that it's okay for whatever reason, you can go get those additional supports if you feel like you need it because you think you have the baby blues, because you have even worse depression or anxiety.
Absolutely.
What are some other common things that people might experience after having a baby?
There's OCD, a really rare one. I mean, this is rare, but it's worth talking about. It's psychosis because it's really significant and risky. That is huge. Hearing voices, seeing things that aren't there, hallucinations, delusions, those are really serious situations. I think statistically between 1 and 2 out of 1,000 to 2,000 people. Like it's a rarity, but still, like if that's you, it's terrifying. And your partners might not know how to handle that. That's a big one. Postpartum also affects dads. We don't talk about that enough, I don't think. We have a great mom tribe of all of us together. Dads can experience postpartum as well. 1 out of every 10 dads approximately suffers with postpartum depression, let alone just adjusting and taking on the role that they think they're supposed to be taking on as dad / support or partner and anything like that. I know I'm talking about dads, but that can also apply to same-sex couples, anything with the partner as the supporter. There's a huge sense of responsibility that comes with that as well, and trying to caretake for your partner and your new baby.
1 in 10 that's big,
right? No, 1 in 10. I mean, I have a party at my house and I have 10 couples there. Like 1 out of those 10 people like has postpartum depression besides just the primary parent and the person that gave birth. That's huge.
So a non-birthing partner then would also be somebody who'd be a good candidate to get additional support.
I think typically, or just from what I see, I don't have a statistic on this necessarily, but that person is less likely to get the support and attention in some ways because you're the supporting role.
Yeah.
And we're all very focused on birthing parent, which is great, but remembering that there's a lot of other people that are taking on some level of responsibility in this role, and it's a huge adjustment for everybody. Not just thinking that it only all falls on your primary parent is huge too.
Yeah, I can see from a societal standpoint how that other person could get overlooked pretty easily.
Yeah.
Their body didn't go through the same changes and they didn't have all of the same experiences, even though they probably were right alongside for the ride.
Exactly. And we're not always asking them how they're doing because, of course, they're not typically the priority.
Do you think society has a pretty big role in how postpartum is perceived?
Statistically speaking, postpartum rates are rising. So what we make of that, I mean, the sociology behind it is interesting. I don't have necessarily the exact variables on what causes that. Smaller family size in general, we have a much more nomadic kind of family dynamic. People now, because of telehealth and remote jobs, people can move away and their family is further away from them. Typically, in traditional means, those family members are the ones helping you. And now we have a lot more chosen families. Well, there's a lot of factors. I'm curious what you think though too, if you notice as a parent.
Yeah, well, I found that after I had my son, everybody wanted me to be happy. I wanted this so bad. He's here, he's happy, he's healthy, and it was hard for me to be able to adjust when everybody was like, why aren't you over the moon right now?
Yeah.
Why are you crying?
Yeah.
Like uncomfortable. My body doesn't feel like it went back together the right way. And
Exactly.
I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
So much like shame and also shoulds, like the societal shoulds. You should be happy. This should be the best time of your life. You should be doing all these things. You should feel that way. And I think that's the biggest point is nobody's supposed to feel a certain thing, or all feelings are good. Sometimes the resistance and the shoving it away can be more detrimental than actually acknowledging and having a conversation about it.
Right, being able to express what you're feeling. And I know you had talked about supports. That is, I think, really an important part of it too, right? Having the community around you for you to be able to say, I was watching TV this morning and the next thing I know I'm crying and I don't even know why. And somebody else being like, that happened to me all the time. It was so strange.
Yes.
And knowing that it's a common thing that happens, it's not because something is wrong with you. I mean, it could be a sign of something else going on, but
it doesn't mean you're like inherently flawed, broken, or like there's something very wrong with you that's not also potentially affecting everybody else. Oh, this is sort of normalizing this. All right, this doesn't have to be as terrifying as maybe it is thinking you're the only person. You have to keep that a secret or not share with people. So I think that just makes it all worse. You just pile on a ton of shame.
Yeah, I breastfed, and I found that there was a lot of weird things about that. I was way more comfortable breastfeeding around people I didn't know. Because
then the ones you did.
Yes, their opinion didn't matter.
Yeah.
But even things like leaking,
Oh.
I would get so embarrassed, and my sister would be like, that happens. Like, bring some pads with you, but
Yep.
it happens.
It happens to so many of us. And it makes you think like, well, I never noticed it on anybody else ever in my life. I've never like walked around and been like, oh, that chick over there or so-and-so is leaking. Like, because we probably don't notice that about each other. I was hypersensitive to so many things, thinking everybody was staring at me. If I was nursing in Target, everybody's gonna be looking, someone's gonna say something to me. Nobody cared. It was in my head all the time. I didn't want to go anywhere.
I did not hesitate to breastfeed when my son needed to eat, but I was also always prepared if somebody were to say something that I was gonna, I had it in my head. I knew exactly what I was gonna say. And nobody ever, they'd be like, oh, he's beautiful. And that would be it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
But those societal expectations, I think, did make a really big difference.
Yeah.
I was a member of the breastfeeding cafe in Rochester, and being able to go to those groups and have that community support, I think was really important. But it's also so necessary to have those supports and have somebody else who knows what it's like, who knows that you didn't text them back for 2 days because you haven't slept in 4.
Exactly. I know. Everything changed for us, for sure.
Yes.
I felt so much pressure to be the best parent I can be. And like, we tried so hard to get here. This is my focus. Like, there's a lot of expectations for all of ourselves in there.
Do you think that there are extra expectations with families who go through fertility treatments to have their kids?
It's interesting and bring in some ways too that shoulds, right? Like, if you go through infertility, if you're a person with through infertility and then you're experiencing baby blues or depression, there's even more shame because looking at you to say like, well, you worked so hard to get here. You should be so happy. How come you feel sad right now? I have a close friend who experienced infertility for their first, and now they're working on the second, and it's harder the second time around. And everybody just keeps saying, well, at least you have one. At least you have your one. You appreciate a little bit of what people are trying to say. So it's really invalidating to the emotional aspect to say to ourselves or have somebody else say to you that you should feel something that you just don't. I want to feel that way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how I feel today. And I might feel that way tomorrow, but it's going to ebb and flow, and that's okay too.
So it sounds like that can create like shame around it too. So the guilt, the shame of feeling like you're supposed to be feeling something else.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a lot of pressure.
So I know you have an event coming up.
Yeah, we are doing an event called The Climb, which is a national event held twice a year, one in the spring and one in the fall, across the nation. And it's by Postpartum Support International. So the fundraiser, all of the funds go to Postpartum Support International, or we're going to say PSI, just because it's so much easier. In New York, we have a Syracuse chapter, Buffalo, New York City. Our climb is based out of Wayne County this year. I'm a Wayne County resident, so rural side of things, suburban, rural area, depending on how far you push into our county. The event is going to be on October 4th at our local park. We're going to have bounce house, vendors, angel baby station, 2 guest speakers to talk about their postpartum experience, raffle tickets, networking, kids games. We've hopefully covered all of our bases.
I know what an angel baby is. Can you just describe it in case somebody doesn't?
Oh, yes. Any of our losses. So for me, personally, angel baby can mean miscarriage, infant loss. I'll even say for myself, I consider my husband, Brian, and I, we made the decision after our son, Teddy, was born. He's now 4.5. We had 4 embryos still cryo-frozen, and we made the decision that we're not going to have any more children. So I kind of think about that, like that's a loss in some ways, or as a process for me. I don't want to say that that was as detrimental a loss as some other folks who lost pregnancies and had that attachment, but any kind of loss, like there's just all of these. So our angel babies are the babies that coulda, woulda, shoulda been around for us, and we want to honor that loss, that life that was here for maybe a moment or not, and have a space for parents to share and really see that camaraderie, almost a snapshot. It's really sad, but it's also beautiful in the same sense that we're probably going to have everybody either paint a rock with a name or a star. We're going to have a space where you'll be able to visually see, wow, these are all of our losses, and there's a lot more than I think people talk about.
I believe that.
Yeah, I had no clue until becoming a parent, experiencing my friends, now as a therapist working with perinatal and birth trauma, infant loss, all of the things. And I think back to the situation with my mom. They didn't talk about it. That was the 80s. Like, it was done, you move on, you move forward. And some of that still plays into people. Like, you move on to the next thing. And this is a space to collectively share that experience, because it's not something people want to talk about all the time. It's vulnerable, it's sad, but I believe we need to come together and have a conversation about it, because we're all gonna, shared suffering is actually quite healing. It sounds so terrible and counterintuitive, but we can all get together and just hug it out and have some feelings and create your sense of community there as well.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like this is building a community, and especially for people who have experienced those kinds of losses, having a space where it's safe to be able to be vulnerable like that and talk about it, where other people who haven't experienced those things might not understand the same way.
Yeah.
What is the overall premise of the climb?
We climb together, and as a network, as a team, as a community, we can come together and help pull each other out and take care of each other.
I think that just a sense of community for anybody is important, but especially in the areas that people don't talk about as much, like postpartum, pregnancy, having kids, things like that is all so normal, but the after effects of it, people try to either put on a happy face or, sometimes it just feels like other people don't want to hear what your challenges are in those situations. So having that.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know what to say either, which can sometimes feel really dismissive. And I think having the conversation more as well can bring out the awareness for people who necessarily aren't parents or been through a tragedy or a loss or anything like that, just to gain some perspective, to say like, oh, I want to tell my friend, don't worry, it'll be fine. Just keep trying. It's appreciated, and people know where you're coming from when you say something like that, but it also can be invalidating. And this could give a little perspective to help our tribe, our community, also have a greater understanding of everything people go through. Because like I said, I didn't know any of this before, and now it's so huge. And every time I bring up the climb or talk about postpartum and perinatal, there's always someone who's like, oh yeah, I had a loss, or I struggled with this. And it really is so much bigger than I had given any thought to prior to experiencing it and meeting people and getting involved. And now it feels like everybody has some on the spectrum, some component of it.
Yeah, I know there's a really huge percentage of pregnancies that end in loss. That does not match how often we talk about those challenges and what that means for each person, because realistically, it doesn't really matter where they're at in the process. If it happens to them, how they feel it is how they feel it and how it is for them.
Yeah, because for some folks, it's a loss that they'll carry forever, and a new baby doesn't always replace that loss.
Is that something that you think happens often, that people assume that somebody's rainbow baby cancels out what losses they've experienced?
Unfortunately, yes, in some ways, I think, because we all want to hang on to the positive, and nobody wants to have to remember the negative or just be negative and bring up things that are uncomfortable. But the more we get comfortable with the uncomfortable, the less uncomfortable it gets, essentially. The more it just feels like you can breathe, and that those feelings are acknowledged, and you just have that space. So now it's not such a hidden, secret, heavy thing anymore. Shared carrying of, I don't know, I'm thinking buckets. We all take a little bit of a bucket. It's not so heavy anymore. If you're doing it by yourself, it's full and heavy, and it's burden.
That makes a lot of sense. So the climb helps normalize some of those things, it helps bring people who need that additional support together with other people. Is this open to the public, or is it just open to people who have experienced postpartum or loss?
Anyone, everyone, please come. We're going to have resources and some great table vendors spanning from crafters to therapists to chiropractors to doulas. We're covering a lot of different areas because the whole idea for me was thinking of family. Family applies to everyone in some way or another, and this is just, yes, there's the climb is the biggest component in the focus, and it's a fundraiser, but also recognizing that all of these things play a part in the giant spider web of family and helping all of us climb out. It's huge.
If somebody wants to contribute, is there a way that they can do that? I know you said it's a fundraiser. Is there a link that we can direct people to if they want to make a donation, or are you taking like physical donations?
Both, actually. So we have some raffle prizes, like if people have raffle stuff, gift cards, things like that, baskets, we're definitely taking that. Just a click on our webpage. There is a link I can give you after we're done with this that we can post, and it will send you to our Wayne County Climb page, and people can just donate a monetary amount there. Any little bit helps. It'd be great.
Where do those funds go?
50% goes to Postpartum Support International, 50% goes to our New York State chapter. So altogether, 100% of all the funds goes to Postpartum Support International, 50 goes into the kind of the national pot per se, and then 50% for us being in New York goes to our state chapters. So to recognize that we're also directly contributing to our neighborhood as well and our communities.
So it's giving back to us, as well as postpartum parents as a whole.
Exactly. And Postpartum Support International does tons of online groups, therapy, resources, supports. They are huge as far as giving to anybody who needs it. There should be no reason that somebody who doesn't have the amount of money can't get support. And that's what all of the funds go to, is you're supporting somebody who might not be able to do that on their own.
Awesome. Speaking of support, what are some ways that people can support loved ones who are either postpartum or dealing with those losses in ways that they might not know how to otherwise?
Good question. I would say checking in is great. Asking somebody how they're really doing, one-on-one, not just, hey, how are you? Sometimes the greatest thing is just doing something for someone without having to ask them. For those of us who are parents, sometimes the bandwidth it takes to actually share with someone how to help me feels like more work than actually if somebody just came to my house and did my dishes for me or something like that.
How long do you think people need that kind of support for?
Ooh, good question. The first year, I think, I'm like the 1 year mark for me hits like all of the holidays, all of the seasons, all the things. Yet I would say, in my own experience too, it always lasts a lot longer. But like something regular for a good year, 6 months to a year, all of parenting goes through stages.
That is
so even outside of that perinatal umbrella, there's always the next thing. So having some support is always just nice for us. There's no change. The minute you get comfortable, those kids switch it up on us. Like they know that you get comfortable and you get confident, and then something has to change. A sleep schedule, a milestone.
Yeah, we just started school, so we have a lot of adjustments happening.
Yep, just on to the next.
I still wish I had somebody who would come over and do my dishes.
Yes, I had a mom tell me that her two kids were teenagers, but the best thing she ever invested her money in, and I don't know, somebody needs to make a business out of this, was having a person come every day to her house for like 45 minutes or an hour and just tidy up. She said it was the best thing she ever spent her money on.
That sounds magical.
I want to create just a business for that, like the in between.
That's part of what postpartum doulas do too, right? They help with some of those things that.
Goldmine. Yes, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're okay.
They're huge. They're so great. Like this postpartum doula is a doula who comes after you give birth to support you in that process, and usually they can help with anything lactation, breastfeeding, but doing dishes, helping in the middle of the night, taking a little of the load off. It's huge.
And that's a resource I think a lot of people don't even know exists. I didn't know it existed until I had my son.
Me either. I had no clue. I don't even think I knew much about doulas until I was pregnant with my son. and had a few people suggest it, and I looked into it and I was like, this sounds awesome. Best investment ever.
Yeah, I wish I had done that in retrospect, but definitely another great support for people who are freshly postpartum. And I think it's really underestimated how much having a clean, tidied space means, especially when your brain is already so frazzled with all of the changes and making sure that your new baby has everything that they need, just being able to function in your space without worrying about all of the little things that might be out of place.
Exactly. My brain has so many things in it all the time anyway, and then it was like, what needs to get done next, but then it was, oh, and this, and got to put the dishes out of the dishwasher, or I gotta run over here, and it was like, oh, add this to the grocery list because we're out of this, and it was always something, and just having those little things done felt like such a weight off. Yeah, I don't think that changes much either. Not yet, for me at least. I'm just encouraging everybody to check out The Climb. Even if you're not in our area, they're all across the country and not always on the same day. So that's great. Give it a shot. You never know who you're going to meet and what resource to find. Just say yes. Just try new things. I know it's like terrifying, and especially if you're dealing with depression and anxiety, it's like the hardest thing to do. And I know it's a tall ask, but if you can find a way to just put yourself out there a little bit, the rewards are huge. The rewards that I've even just gained by setting on The Climb, between networking, new friends, supports, resources I didn't know about, resources I can recommend to people. I've learned so much.
I know Renew will have a table set up there to provide resources for. I'm very excited to be there too, and thank you for inviting us.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's so great to provide those resources for people who might not otherwise know that they're there.
And everybody who's going to be there has a stake in the game, personally and not just professionally. Like, this isn't just something for people to show their brand and all these things. Like, this is a personal cause to everybody who's volunteering, putting on a table, or going to be there. And it's 100% everybody's volunteer based, paid for by either sponsors or what we put in our own time, energy, resources. This is just, it's a passion project from love and experience for all of us. And it's passionate for me because seeing what some of the clients have gone through, and friends and colleagues, and how hard it is, and you just want to scoop everybody up and like give them a giant warm hug and like share all of these resources, because it just gets so much easier together. And I don't know, it's huge for me and everybody who's going to be there. I think it's going to be a really beautiful, amazing, sad, powerful kind of experience for everyone. I just can't wait to see it all come to fruition.
I'm very excited. What main takeaways do you want listeners to have from our conversation?
Nothing is normal, but everything is normal. I don't know, it's like all more confusing, right? Like, don't be afraid to ask questions, put yourself out there, ask for help, seek out resources. There's no shame in any of this, and that's a huge thing. We all think there is, and that what you're experiencing is unique. There's so many people out there with similar experiences, and people who've done it and been through it, who have tools to offer. Like, we can learn from each other. It takes a village to do all of this and grow and get the support that you need. It's huge.
Thank you so much coming on, for sharing your wisdom, for talking about the event so that we can get more community members there, and for all the work that you do with your clients and supporting them in probably some of the toughest times of their lives.
Aw, thank you. Thank you for having me. I was so excited to have you guys at The Climb and being able to share this and give me the opportunity to be on here.
Today's conversation reminds us that the postpartum journey can be challenging, with emotional, physical, and mental ups and downs. Whatever your path looks like, each step, no matter how small, is part of the climb towards understanding, healing, and growth. Remember, you're not alone in this journey, and seeking support is a sign of strength. If you found value in today's episode, consider subscribing so you don't miss future conversations, and share it with somebody who might benefit from hearing it. Together, we are stronger with every session.